Hello, hello, hello. My name is Robert. I am the recovery guy, and you have entered into The Fix. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Robert. I am the recovery guy, and welcome to Recovery Guy Podcast. I'm excited that you are here because so much of my time and so much of my life is doing the best I possibly can for me, that I have some experience, strength, and hope to share with you, because I'm so grateful to the men and women who were in the rooms of recovery, almost waiting for me specifically. I mean, if anyone would have showed up, they'd have been fine. But I showed up, and I take that very personally. So men like Scott and Steve and Buddy and Eddie and Jack and Texas Mike and my sponsor Will, who are still clean and sober. Texas Mike has gone home to be with the Lord, and my sponsor Jack passed away a little bit more than 3.5 years ago, but the other men are still living. And matter of fact, Steve will have 37 years of sobriety this later on this month, and Will have 43 years of personal recovery in January, and all these other guys. Scott is going on 39 years, Buddy 45 years. So I have a great pedigree of recovery behind me. So if you sense my confidence, don't confuse it with arrogance. I have no belief in me whatsoever, but I do have a belief in a power greater than myself, doing for me what I could not do for myself. And the fact that these men are still clean and sober, or died clean and sober, is all the evidence that I need to do this one more day at a time. Matter of fact, I think today is day 13,299. I have to double check. It's either 13,299 or 13,300. Either way, what we have is one day to celebrate our recovery. And I love the preamble of Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous, or any 12-step program or monotheistic, that's all we're here for. Alcoholics Anonymous, it's a fellowship of men and women who share. Isn't that wonderful? No more do I bottle my pain, my anguish, my anxiety in, but I share it, because we know we're only as sick as our secrets. Therefore, honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness are foundational to our personal recovery. Hey, today I'm really super excited. I have a great friend in studio with me, and I'm going to let him introduce himself. And we're going to talk about fitness. I met this person on Instagram, I don't know, 2, maybe 3 years ago, something like that. And we've just become friends over time. Most recently, we've become very good friends. And so I invited him on to this program to just share his approach to fitness and how important it is to his personal life. So good afternoon, my friend. Tell us who you are.
Hey, Robert. My name is Leandro, and thanks for inviting me and doing this podcast with you. It's this recovery has been a journey for me, and in fitness, and so I'm just super grateful that I got into fitness when I got sober, because when I got sober, I put on quite a bit of weight because of, my drug of choice was, cocaine and methamphetamine, and so I was pretty skinny when I when I was in my addiction. And when I got clean and sober, I didn't like the way I looked, so I just started working out and taking protein and eating a little more cleaner, and I started gaining that weight back, but in a good way.
Yeah.
And and it's also just helped me, like, spiritually too. Like, it's really it just feels really good for me. Like, I feel more confident, and my self-esteem has gotten higher. I don't really hate myself anymore. So it's a very positive thing to do in recovery, is is to work out. And it doesn't have to be the gym. You can ride a bike, you can go swimming, you can go hiking. There's a lot of things you can do to stay in shape. And so yeah, like I just got into I've always been in fitness since I played sports in high school, and so I've always lifted weights and football and track and baseball and I even lifted after I graduated and honestly I even lifted in my addiction, but it wasn't really going anywhere because I just was using, so I wasn't seeing the results. And so I thought I could, still be big and strong while being, high on cocaine or meth. And then, it just wasn't, it doesn't work. So like
hey, before we get deeper in our conversation, if individuals want to follow you and see some of the things that you do online, what is your Instagram handle, if you don't mind?
No. My Instagram name is Lee De La Cruz 267.
So my name is LeeDelacruz, correct?
Yeah, and then 267.
Wonderful. And what are the last?
267.
267. So at Lee De La Cruz 267.
Yeah, that's
perfect. Right. Good. Yeah, and because that was one of the things and I'm not sure if I followed you first or you followed me, but I remember just seeing you in some of the weights, and I'm not a real free weight guy. I'm more of a machine to target areas. Some people like that, although I know for the back of my arms, I need to be using some free weights as I get older. I know it's not as tight and as firm as it was. And so I need to use some free weights to start strengthening and tightening up that area. But something really interesting, two things you said that I really want to touch on, because folks, before we started recording this podcast, we talked about the domains or the dimensions, the spiritual, the emotional, the physical, and the mental. And just two of the things that Leandro had mentioned, the spiritual and the self-esteem, that emotional, how he thinks and how he felt about himself. Let's touch on those for a minute. And just like our addiction, and by the way, because you mentioned you are a sober person, you're not a novice to this. You've been around for a few years, haven't you?
Yeah, my sobriety date is 12/21/2014.
So you're coming up on 8 years?
Yep, coming up on 8 years.
That's fantastic. As a person who's been around for a while, I always look for individuals such as yourself, and I really surround myself with people who have less time than me for two reasons. Number one, you have a fresh perspective, right? One of the challenges with being an old timer is we have to fight against being that get off my lawn guy, right? Well, when I was in school, we walked uphill both ways, and this is how we did it. Even though there's the plan of recovery hasn't changed, and I'm still dogmatic about that. I think a younger perspective, a person such as yourself or Andy or Angie or Wendy or Scott, or one of the guys I sponsored just celebrated 16 years. You bring a fresh perspective to things that I've been doing, and that helps me not forget where I came from, right?
Yeah.
And so eventually, it's inevitable that, one of the things we do in life is we die, right? We leave this planet. And just as my sponsor, Jack, sadly passed away with 44 years of sobriety, there'll be a time I won't be here. And recovery really relies on people like you with a commitment to true sobriety, not drinking or using, but a holistic approach to being well, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so congratulations on your 8 years up and coming and the day and the victory you have today. Having said that, was when you got clean and sober and you had been lifting and doing even when you were using, as you said, what do you think affected you first? Was it the self-esteem? Did you think there was a spiritual connection you weren't getting? Was there something that said to you, I need to get serious about how I feel and how I look and how I feel about me and how others view me, right?
Yeah.
And let me
Yeah.
say, not as others view you for your ego, but how others view you and your sobriety that you're looking to share.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I got sober, I was going to meetings and I was working the steps and I was being honest and but there was still something missing. Like because I still quite couldn't quite still look at myself in the mirror, because I just was just lost and I was, and then I was driving by one time. This is when I moved over here to California, in Central Coast, California. But I was driving by it and I saw this CrossFit gym and I saw these people running and so I, just stopped by and they were very welcoming. They were very friendly and just really nice people. And it seemed like a really positive environment. So I signed up and I started doing CrossFit. And that really helped me a lot. I mean, just, not just the workouts, but just the people there, like part of my recovery is surround myself with positive people. It doesn't have to be just people in recovery. It can be these people over here that are cheering me on to set a personal record or to finish the workout, and, they're pushing me, they're cheering me on. That is just like, wow, like it is just an amazing feeling when you have these people cheering you on. And so yeah, I take that, to heart and just surround myself with positive people, people that are going to, make me better.
I'm really glad you bring that up because I love to listen to a lot of speakers. Obviously what helped get me sober were listening to speaker tapes and Bob Earl and Johnny Masters and just a number of individuals that I would listen to, go to speaker meetings and listen to them on. I'm old enough to know when tape was, right, even before CDs, and now I listen to them on YouTube. But I also, Zig Ziglar and Father Martin and Stephen Covey and listen to a number of podcasts that are people who aren't in recovery and yet their approach to living is very, very positive. So I'm really glad that you found, because obviously our foundational recovery is in the rooms. Yeah. But if we shut ourselves off to individuals who have a positive message, but we don't meet them in the rooms of recovery, I think we're shutting ourselves off. So I'm really glad you said that. And one of the things that I found, and tell me if this isn't true, as you got to know them, everyone is recovering from something, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not necessarily alcohol or drugs, but life is a bitch, And if they're not recovering from an addiction, they know someone who is, but they've just made a positive approach, because our recovery is not based on our lack of drink or use. I tell people all the time, my getting sober is because I don't drink and use, but my sobriety is a lifestyle choice. And that's the choice that they're making, right? So what were some of the things about them outside of the rooms of recovery that really got you to say, this is the path I want to take and I enjoy being around these people? Was there something that they did for your emotion or your mental position?
The people in the rooms or the people at the gym?
The people at the gym.
Oh yeah. So when I was, I think I was like around 18 months sober at the time. I had a card that had the AA symbol and sticker in the back, and this one of the CrossFit coaches came up to me and was just like, "Is that your card with the symbol, with the triangle and the circle?" I'm like, and I was like, yeah, that's my car. And she was like, "Are you a friend of Bill W?" I'm like, "I am actually." And she goes, "Me too." And I was like, "Oh, sweet, okay." So I forgot how much time she has, but it was pretty cool. This was like when I first was starting CrossFit too, and so like I mean, we're definitely not alone out there. And
no, we're everywhere, man.
Yeah, so but it was just, they were just very nice people. They were very, into CrossFit. They also, there was a lot of laughter. I
Mhm.
mean, a lot of laughing, and so like and smiling, and see that's kind. I see it like going to a meeting. Because when I
Yeah.
went to a meeting, people were always smiling and laughing, and it's like that's what I wanted right there.
Yeah.
And then when I went to the CrossFit, I see everyone there laughing and smiling, and they all look. Some of them are pretty fit and muscular, and then there's some that are overweight that are trying to get the weight down, but
Mhm.
they're still having a good time and still getting a good workout in, and so yeah, I mean, it was, and they just encouraged me. I mean, and when they found out I was in recovery, it was funny because one time I was leaving and they told me keep coming back, and so I was like, oh yeah, I will.
It's
Yeah,
wonderful that as you were describing the atmosphere there, I'm thinking that's just like the rooms of recovery.
yeah,
The
yeah.
big book says that laughter, cheerfulness makes for usefulness. The Bible says that a merry heart does good like a medicine. So it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't surprise me that you were attracted to these people because it was a type of recovery meeting, right?
Yeah,
Some people are
yeah.
in different phases of their physical fitness, some overweight working on it, some were really built up and built out, and some were just beginning their journey. Everyone was in different phases, but all going for the same goal. The same thing in the rooms of recovery.
Mm-hmm.
Whether a
Yeah,
person is 1 year, one day, 10 days, 100 days, 1,000, 10,000 days, we're all there for the same reason, right? To grow and to
mm-hmm.
change. So it doesn't surprise me that a person who was making your life choices would find that environment attractive as well.
Yeah,
Because if you didn't find it attractive, the likelihood is you wouldn't have gone back.
yeah. Because like for me, I mean, it was like growing up. Even though I was good with sports, I didn't really hang out with the jocks, even though I played, sports and I was very good at it.
Mhm.
I didn't really like the vibe. I didn't like really just the kind of people they were, because they were the kind of jocks that would like put others down because they weren't as good as them, and they
Mhm.
only hung out with the popular kids or the kids that had money and got the newest, coolest things, and though they weren't really my kind of people, and they never really invited me out to parties and or get-togethers or whatever. Anyway, um, so that was one of my fears about going to CrossFit. It's like, because I kind of was like, is this going to be like high school, or like they're going to be like, looking down on people that are not as good as
Mhm.
them, and but then I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to go. I'm just going to just see how it goes, and then no, like they were very friendly and just super nice and very encouraging and motivating. And they pushed me to do better. And some are working in the same field as me. So
Oh, really?
like, yeah, oh yeah. One of them actually helped me get a job over there. She put in a good word for me
Uh-huh.
over there where I work. And so yeah, that was very nice of her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned something. Gosh, you mentioned so many interesting things that trigger so many thoughts and questions. A couple things, because as you were sharing your experience in high school, because I was very athletic as well. So I played baseball primarily and basketball, played a little football in high school, and I was a member of the choir. I always have loved to sing. Even when I was in elementary school, I was always in Glee Club and through junior high school and high school, but I never felt like I fit in. We used
Mm-hmm.
to have the handball courts, and in the morning we'd go back there and get high. And I never fit in there either, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
never was like you stated. I never felt like I was part of the athletic group. I was just different, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I sort of got stuck. I call it going through life sideways. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And 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 so, but that became very painful.
Yeah.
Not fitting in for whatever reason. We don't feel we fit in, and I think that's a real common thread, Leandro, between those of us in recovery. We just never quite fit, and And that can be very painful for us.
Yeah.
And as you know, as a professional EMT in an acute, a critical environment, if you're hurting bad enough, you need to be medicated.
Oh yeah.
You know, because something needs to stop the pain. You know, and for those of us who went to substances, sometimes alcohol and drugs are the only thing that'll work.
Yeah.
You know, I remember I had a coach who reached out to me and invited me to church, and I went there, and that wasn't enough. You know, I just didn't fit anywhere I went. And that was very painful when you're 15, 16, 17 years old, and you just don't feel like you fit anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, you used a term, and I loved it earlier. You used a term, and I'm glad you brought up your athleticism and your involvement in high school, because you used the term reconnect. You know, which I love words, because words have meaning. They usually tell a story. So your physical fitness now is a way of you reconnecting to your commitment when you were younger.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So, when I was younger, I was always little too. Like always small.
I can't see you as, I mean, folks, when you go see Leandro on Instagram, he's not a small guy whatsoever.
Yeah.
I would want to stand back to back with him in an alleyway for sure. He's not a small guy. But
Yeah,
I was small when I was growing up as well. I was always very thin.
Yeah. I was little, and I actually got picked on too, and I actually wasn't getting picked on by a jock. It was by these other guys that they were starting to use drugs and stuff.
Oh.
And so I was getting bullied by them, and you know, and they were bigger than me, and so that's another thing that kind of motivated me to get back into it, was because I just didn't want to be the little guy anymore. And but because my body wasn't done growing until I was like maybe 24, 25. And so yeah, my body grew and I got bigger, and I was, you know, taking a protein supplement. I was taking my vitamins, and I was eating. And at first I started off not eating great, but it put on some size on me, but then it just started to be unhealthy. Then when I moved out here in California, started doing CrossFit, that's when it all kind of changed, and I got a little more leaner. But yeah, I just didn't like being small. And so, but now that I'm older, it just really, the size doesn't really matter, you know, to me anymore. It's not the size now. It's just more like just staying healthy and staying fit. And so, and it's really important, you know, to stay healthy, you know.
So it's become part of your overall recovery.
It has, yeah, it is. It's definitely a big part. You know, mentally, spiritually, and physically, like it's really, for me, it's really important. And plus the kind of work I do, like I need to work out, you know, like it's like to save someone's life, you pretty much have to be in shape to save someone's life, you know, like I've had to do CPR for like almost 10 minutes one time, you know, just doing compressions nonstop, and I was sweating, I'm tired. You know, thank God I was doing CrossFit, and my endurance, my stamina was good, so I still kept going until someone else showed up and they took over compressions. And so it's for me, with the work I do, it's really important that I stay fit. You know,
what was the outcome of that person?
It was sad. The person didn't make it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so a lot of the times when I've done CPR on someone, most of them didn't make it. There's been a couple that have made it, and so but a lot of the times they, you know, sometimes they make it, like we get a pulse and then they code again, and we have to do CPR again, and then they code again, and then so it was kind of like, if they keep doing that, they're eventually just gonna die. So there's like a a time when the doctor says that, this is going to be it right here. If they could again, then that's going to be it. And so,
that's, I would imagine, I've been in the same room on a couple of occasions when people have passed away, and it's a very surrealistic moment.
Yeah.
I would imagine a person who deals with life and death on a regular basis, watching people die, some by their hand, some by the hand of others, some on purpose, some by accident. How does that affect your commitment to live, knowing that you can control that where, for whatever reason, they could not? And how does that affect your overall approach to your own wellness? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So yeah, I take it very seriously. Like when I see, the patients, like how they are. And so most of them are like in their 50s and 60s, and they've had a history of heart attacks or CHF, so yeah, it's kind of like, worries me and stuff, because my dad's side of the family has a history of heart attacks. My dad hasn't had one yet, thank God. Hopefully, won't be for another good while, but yeah, so it runs on my dad's side, and I think my mom's side too. So, I want to kind of like break that chain, and I want to just stay healthy, have good arteries, have good blood flow through my arteries, and so, yeah, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be, 50 or 60 and already having heart attacks or having CHF. And these people weren't really in shape. And I only seen a couple that were actually fit, and they still had a heart attack, and they still were having health problems, so yeah. I mean, it was probably maybe genetics, they probably have family members that have it. I don't know, but yeah.
No, my father passed away at 62, and even 33 years ago, that was still pretty young. Life expectancy certainly wasn't then what it is now, but he had had a heart attack in his sleep. However, on the death certificate, the cause of death was morbid obesity. And
oh wow.
And it's really interesting how we view ourselves, and we had talked about this earlier, that self-image, either it's positive or negative, and it has a tendency to, obviously if we have a negative self-image, we're probably doing things that support that mindset, where if we have a positive self-image, we look in the mirror and say, you're doing all right, keep up, whatever you're doing, continue to do that. We have a tendency to follow in healthy practices. And at that particular time, I was just beginning to become out of control overweight. As so many of you know, I used to weigh 395 pounds and morbid obesity and enlarged heart, arrhythmia, AFib, you name it. I was not in good shape. High cholesterol. I had damaged my knees so much for carrying weight around. I've had both knees replaced. I had a non-functioning gallbladder. I was a real mess. Even in losing the weight, that my body had broken down to a point where it just wasn't going to repair itself. But I saw myself when I was 56 years old. I saw myself as a person who had 6 years to live, because my dad died at 62, and my weight was starting to get out of control, and I would lose 20 pounds, but I'd gain 30 back and 40 back, that kind of defeat, and thank God in 2010, I made a decision to get some surgery and make some different life choices. And now I'm very, very healthy. But it's really hard to make that commitment, isn't it? To go from either sober to clean. I mean, using to clean, and from drunk to sober, but also from a person who is not in shape to a person in shape. And And that's a daily commitment for you as well, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, it's watching what I'm eating, and I did a lot of experimenting, with the eating part. And
Uh-huh.
so like I tried different stuff, um and so what works for me, like I order these meals from Freshly.
Okay.
And they're pretty good. It's clean eating. The sodium's high, but I mean it's better than what I used to eat,
Mhm.
better than, going to Carl's Jr. or Jack in the Box, um and I also eat my friend Carlos. He's a professional bodybuilder,
Mhm.
and he's won a lot of bodybuilding competitions. And people have asked him, "What do you eat?" And so him and his wife got into a business together where they cook the kind of food they eat, and they meal prep. And then it's exactly the same portions that they eat, and
Mhm.
so they that's their business. Is they
Wow.
cook and they sell the food, and it's pretty much paleo. You got your
Mhm.
meat, and you got your veggies, and you got your good carbs. And so yeah, I was eating his meals, and I lost like pretty much 7 pounds in a week.
Wow.
And when I was doing just his meals. And so and that was paleo. And so um for someone trying to lose weight, that's probably for me, that was the best way to go, was the paleo. um
Yeah.
yeah.
I've done a lot of, from the carrot diet to, to that tea diet to um, uh, keto diet, but the paleo, I think it was there was a doctor, I can't think of his name, out of Florida, but it was a very common sense approach to eating.
Yeah.
It involved more than one food group, because eventually, if you're on a no carb diet, at some point you have to introduce carbs back into your diet, and you have to be so careful, because if it's the wrong carb at the right time, it'll trigger that
hmm
metabolic set point to
yeah.
gorge on carbs again, and then everything you've done for the previous 4 or 5 or 6 months to lose 40, 50, 60, 70 pounds is gone.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
need that balance. So because I tell people, it's not so much as what I eat, although there's certain things I don't eat, milk and processed sugar and things,
hmm
but it's when I eat it. I never eat certain foods past 6 o'clock at night, because
Yeah.
I know my metabolism slows down, and the likelihood it's not going to be digested before I go to sleep, which
hmm
means while I sleep, it's going to turn into fat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's those kinds of things. So from a dietary standpoint, there has to be an alignment with what you're lifting and doing. So give us an idea of what you're doing and the connection between what you eat and how you work out.
So right now my workout is kind of limited because of my injury. I have
Uh-huh.
I have golfer's elbow. It's in the inside of the elbow.
Right.
And I got
It's
it
not
from when I.
tennis elbow, it's golfer's elbow. Yeah.
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 It's. I mean, you'll feel it. It's pretty
Yeah.
painful, and so I got that from when I used to work at Walmart. I was the guy that unload the trucks and pull the
Oh yeah.
pallets, and so I did a lot of repetitive movement. And yeah, over time, I thought it was just sore. So I just kind of ignored it and think it'll go away on its own, but it never went away. And workman's comp didn't really do much. So I just kind of doing like my own like physical therapy. Um, I'm doing a lot of icing. I got a massage gun that I use. So I'm doing things that I'm like able to do. Like I can still deadlift. I can still do front squats with my arms crossed. I can do lunges. Um, a lot of lower body stuff. Use the
Mhm.
leg press machine, leg curls, leg extensions, calf raises. I can even do, some upper body stuff like front lateral raises for my shoulders.
Mhm.
And so for me, like when I do those exercises, I do about 4 to 5 sets of 10 to 12 reps. And I do that. And I used to do cardio when I train with weights, but now I'm just kind of like I don't really do that. I haven't been doing that lately. Lately, I just make one day a cardio day where I'll just go to
Hmm.
the gym and get on
Okay.
the treadmill and just run for about 30 minutes, and then maybe work on my abs and my obliques, and then I'll get on the stairmaster for like another 10 minutes, and so that's like a cardio day for me. Um, but yeah, I'm just limited, so I just do like legs and my shoulders, and I can actually do some curls for my arms, but it has to be really lightweight and just maybe 2 sets, because if I do more, it will start hurting my elbow.
Hmm.
Um, so for me, that's the kind of training that I'm doing right now. My workout program.
Now,
So, but yeah.
do you find yourself cutting back on your food intake because you're not burning as much, or have you shifted what you eat in the type? Because obviously, one of the ways to stay in shape is to make sure whatever we're taking in, we're burning, right? So
Mhm.
we're
Yeah.
at so we maintain our weight. We're not losing weight unnecessarily, nor are we gain, because you can gain 25 pounds over the course of a year rather easily, just gain 2 pounds a
Yeah.
month, right? And next
Oh
thing you
yeah.
know, I look in the mirror
Yeah.
and think, I need a bigger size pants.
Yeah, for
You got to
sure.
be very careful when you're rehabbing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I try not to do too much on my elbow. So I used to work out 5 or even 6 days a week. Now it's
Mm-hmm.
down to like 4, sometimes 3.
Okay.
And so, because I'm limited, and I don't want to do legs 3 times a week,
Mm-hmm.
or shoulders 3 times a week.
Yeah.
I kind of, I want to give it some time to heal and
Yeah.
recover. But my eating though, I'm kind of eating a little bit more, and I'm taking a protein supplement that has a lot of protein in it, because I'm trying to build strength. I'm trying to build
Okay.
the strength back up. And so I'm kind of starting to put on a little bit more mass, but it's just so I can build strength for my elbow. And it's getting a lot better.
But you're eating with a purpose,
Yeah. Yeah,
something
it's
that's
not all
directed.
unhealthy.
Yeah. So what you're bringing in is necessary for what you're trying to do for yourself, and that's that connection,
Yeah.
that we hope to make. We're not just eating for the sake of eating, but we're eating with a purpose. And
Hmm.
when we begin listening to our body, my body tells me what I want.
Hmm.
Sometimes I'm not nearly as good a listener as I should be.
Yeah, same here.
Um, but my body tells me you need more water. You need more potassium. Go get that bunch of bananas. Go make another
Hmm.
fruit salad. Go. I started eating cashew yogurt
Oh, okay.
instead of regular yogurt because I found myself really liking yogurt, the freshness, and add a
Hmm.
little granola or some shaved almonds, really make it a good meal.
Yeah.
But that much lactose really isn't good for me.
Hmm.
And so Trader Joe's has a great cashew yogurt that I eat now, and I can eat all
Yeah.
the yogurt I want without feeling like I'm doing something that my body is not going to process good or reject overall. So
Yeah.
we have to have that harmony, just like we have in recovery, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of good places out there that has things that are pretty good and healthy.
Mm-hmm.
I've even gone online and looked at paleo meals and paleo desserts or paleo snacks, and it's like, wow, that coconut banana smoothie looks pretty good. So like,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, and I enjoy that because there's so many good foods that are out there that aren't contrary.
Mhm.
I mean, I like cheese, I like fruit, I like all those things, but I've learned that if it's not going to make me feel good later, I probably shouldn't have it now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what Covey says, think first with the end in mind.
Hmm.
If I
Yeah.
don't want my day to end up where I'm feeling badly about myself, I probably should consider how I approach my day, right? So it's just very simple recovery principles. Let me ask
Hmm.
you before we cut out today, Have you been able to, because obviously when we get to the rooms of recovery, we're pretty jacked up. Most of us are in terrible physical condition
Hmm.
because we've neglected, even though we may not be overweight, we're in bad shape
Yeah.
because when you drink and use as much as you and I drink and use, we have a tendency to not do what we should be doing to make our body healthy, while
Hmm.
what we're doing is making our body very unhealthy. So
Yeah.
have you had a good positive, because obviously, I mean, folks, if you see this guy, you're going to know he works out. I would imagine when you go into a room, people probably, maybe in a newcomer or two, will come and say, man, you look fantastic. How do you get in that shape? Can you help me out?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've had that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that probably makes you feel good about who you are and what you're doing, but you get to have a positive impact on
Hmm.
on people, so you get a positive impact when you go to the gym because people see you and they're not in recovery, but they know that you are. And then you go to a meeting of recovery and you take that workout mentality with you there. So you really have an opportunity to impact a couple audiences just based on your life choices,
Yeah.
as a person of recovery and a person who decided I'm going to take care of myself. That
Uh
must
huh.
make you feel good about who you are.
It does. Yeah. I mean, it does. I'm not. I've never really had people come up to me and ask me, "Hey, man, like, you're looking good. Like, what are you doing for workout? Or what are you
Yeah.
doing? So when I go to a meeting or a gym, even the gym, I've had people ask me, like, what kind of workout program are you doing?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it feels good, and I tell them what I'm doing, and so uh, sometimes it's kind of like my own thing. I come up with my own workout programs, and
Hmm.
it's working for me. And because I've done a lot in the past. I've done CrossFit, I've done powerlifting, and I've been trained by professionals. So like when I take those skills, to the gym and when I go to meeting, I'll train a newcomer and show them what was taught to me and so yeah, I just it's pretty cool. It's a good feeling when someone reaches out to me for help, in fitness, because I know, for me, I know quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and that's really important because, and one of the reasons I wanted you on today's program, not only your commitment to personal fitness, um, but as part of that, again, being in recovery is not based on what we don't do. It's based on
Hmm.
what we do. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
sober, we're clean and sober because we don't drink and use, but we don't enjoy a life of sobriety because of what we don't do. We enjoy a life of sobriety because of what we do.
Yeah, yeah, and we're showing the newcomers too, like this. This is what I got in sobriety. Like
Yeah.
the way I look, and I if I was still using a drink, and I wouldn't look like this.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So when you go to a meeting, or when I go to a meeting, and they see me, like built and stuff, it's like, wow, we got a pretty muscular guy in the rooms, and so this is what I can get in sobriety. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, they can do it too. If I can do it, they can do it.
Yeah. And that's, what, and that's a universal message, if I can look good and feel good and not drink and not use, and I love the word reconnect,
Hmm.
because there was a time where we weren't addicted, and
Yeah.
where there were some things of our past, to this day, I'm so glad I loved music because I've never lost my connection to music. And
Hmm.
and I always wanted to be liked. I just wanted you to like me.
Yeah.
And now today I live a life where for the most part I'm a pretty likable guy, you
Yeah.
know,
Oh yeah.
not because necessarily of what I do, because what I do, it's about who I am,
Yeah.
and that's all I wanted. I was afraid for you to see me because I was afraid you wouldn't like me. And now I'm glad you see me, because to see me is to like me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Just an entire transformation that occurs. But certainly, as a former obese person, and you've battled with weight as well, it's good to be on this side, because we remember what it was like being on the other side.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
And if we can share that hope and that encouragement with another person, you know, then that's all part of our journey. You know, I think every day, and I know that going on 8 years, your personal commitment is probably very similar to mine, to do the best we possibly can do for ourselves today, that we might impact at least one person in a positive effect. And sometimes we don't know who that person is. Maybe God has targeted that person. We haven't even met him yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
But somewhere along the line, we're going to have an opportunity to make a positive impact to that person, providing we've decided early in our day to make a difference in the life of at least one person.
Oh yeah.
You know, and what a transformation that is.
Oh yeah.
So remind us one more time of how to reach you on Instagram and to reach out and say hello.
So my Instagram name is Lee, Lee Dela Cruz, DELACRUZ 267.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Hey, I really appreciate your time so much. I'm really looking forward to our friendship as it grows. And I really appreciate you taking the time and having this conversation on fitness, because I think it's more than just how we look. It's about how we feel about how we look.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
And perception is reality, you know, and you didn't get in shape, or you don't stay in shape because you want me to feel good about you. You're in shape because you want to feel good about you.
That's right. Yeah.
You know?
It's like in the meeting, just like, hey, you wanna do this for yourself. You're not doing this for your loved ones or whatever. You're doing this for you. And so yeah.
That's what I call the inside out approach to recovery and change.
That's right. Yeah.
Hey, my friend, thank you so much for taking the time today, for being on this podcast. And for all of you out there, continue to listen. I appreciate your encouragement. Thank you for the continual messages that you bring me. Every Wednesday at 12:26 Mountain Time, you can catch these podcasts on my YouTube channel, Real Recovery Guy. You can go to Recovery Guy Podcast at 5 a.m. Mountain Time every Tuesday at the Recovery Guy Podcast, and then to at recoveryguy.org. And I understand that our Al-Anon friend Susie is going to be sending me a blog to get published the first week in October. So thank you very much for all that you do. Of course, my name is Robert. I am the Recovery Guy. And remember, we got broken apart, but we get whole together. Have a great day.